Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to my video. Welcome especially to all my new subscribers. I'm so excited. I'm up to 26 now, which is just amazing to me. I started with one and I was kind of surprised I even had that one, to tell you the truth. So thanks so much. It is so great to have you all here. If you want to stop by and leave me a comment and let me know where you're from and drop me a line or two, that would be great. I'd love to get to know you. Anyway, today I'm going to give you my first impressions of the ROtring Isograph pen. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about this Doodle. As you see here, I start with the snail, and if you look at the thumbnail, you'll notice that there's not a snail to be seen in the Doodle, and that's because after I got to the end of the snail, I realized that I kind of messed it up and I didn't like it. And so rather than abandon it, what I did was I just kept going, but I disguised it. That's one of the things that's really magic about doodles, that if you do something and you don't like it, you can always draw around it, you can make it into something else, and oftentimes it just fades into the background. There are about two stages with most of my doodles, and the stages come at different times. The first stage is where suddenly I'll stop in the midst of my doodle and I'll look down and I'll say, wow, I really hate that, I messed that up. But then I usually keep going, and as I go, I start to like it again. And the reason is, as I said, just that you can really disguise the parts that you don't like. So keep an eye on this. You'll be surprised, I think, at the end that the snail really just fades into the background. So having started that, or said that, I'm going to go ahead and start talking about this pen that I'm using. Before I go down that path, I'll talk a little bit about how I came to acquire the pen. During the course of watching all these YouTube videos, I see a lot of people using the isographs, and I've heard them talk about them, and it's really intriguing. The way that isographs differ from other pens, in case you don't know, is that they're not a felt tip pen, they're not a fountain pen, they're not a ballpoint. They have a unique system where they have a tube at the bottom, and inside the tube is a wire. The wire actually blocks the ink from flowing out. When you press the nib against the paper, it pushes the wire back up into the tube and it releases the ink. So it results in a really clean, fine line, and they're uniform in size usually. And apparently, from what I heard, is the ink flow is really nice. So I've been kind of curious about the Isograph for quite some time, but they're expensive. They're about $25 a pen, and then also I heard that they're kind of picky, that because of the way they're built, the tubes tend to get clogged. They need to be cleaned quite often, and sometimes, I don't know, I've just heard that they're sort of frustrating occasionally to use. So I had resisted getting them, especially because, I have to admit, I am an art supply hoarder, and I have this bad habit of seeing art supplies that other people are using and getting really excited about them and buying them before I really know what I'm going to do with them, and a lot of my art supplies go unused. And that's especially since I tend to move from medium to medium. So in the past, I was doing acrylic painting, and then for a long time, I was doing collaging. And so I managed to gather drawers and drawers of art supplies that I don't use very much. So about a year ago, I decided that what I would do, rather than impulse buying art supplies, is to use the ones that I have, and then when I really find I have a need for them, that I would buy them then. About that time, I started drawing almost exclusively with pen and ink. So for about the last year, I've been only replacing ink as I need it and getting paper. And because I really like my fountain pen, my Muji fountain pen, I haven't really bought any new pens. But last week I got a cold. I don't know if you can still hear it in my voice. I'm a little bit hoarse. But I got this cold, and it was a pretty bad cold, and I ended up getting insomnia which is really weird because I was really tired, but I just couldn't sleep. And part of that I think is because every time I tried to lie down, I would start coughing. No, I don't have COVID. I just have this cold that made me cough. Anyway, I had insomnia, and that's very dangerous for me because in the middle of the night is the time of the night when I tend to make impulse buys, partially because I'm weakened during that time of night and my judgment just really goes out the window. So it was about 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was watching videos, and I heard someone mention the Isograph again, and I just couldn't help myself. So I went over to Amazon, which is also the bane of my existence, and I found a kit where you could get 3 pens for $75. There was this 0.5, a 0.3, and a 0.2. And they came with the ink that you use with it, as well as a mechanical pencil, and I was sold. I couldn't help it. It had same day delivery and everything, so I ordered it. And what you see here is the first drawing that I used that pen on. I had just unboxed it and filled it when I made this drawing. So, my general impressions of the pen. The pen itself has a nice feel. It's light. I'm used to using a metal pen, and these are plastic. So it's light in the hand. It has a slightly different heft than I'm used to, but they feel good in the hand. One thing that I don't like about the way they're made is that you can't, well, it's difficult to post the cap. So while the cap will go on, if you brush it against something, it tends to pop back off, and I don't like that very much. I like caps that post. Other than that, though, it has a nice feel, and they are attractive pens. After I put the ink in it, I started to try to draw, and the ink didn't flow right away. I was really concerned that maybe there was something wrong with it. But I spent a little bit of time. There was a clicking sound inside the pen, so I started shaking the pen, and after I had shaken it for a while, the ink began to flow. I was really unimpressed with it at first. When it did work, it felt really nice, and it laid down some clean lines, but the problem was that I had some false starts. So I had some lines that when I tried to put the lines down, they simply didn't go. So I would either have to move the pen in a different direction to get that line started, or I would have to shake the pen, and that was distracting and kind of irritating. The other problem too was that, and I had heard about this too, is that I had to hold it at a strange angle. I had to hold it vertically in order to get it to lay down the ink correctly. So I don't know if you noticed, but my hand was blocking the drawing throughout much of this video, and that's why. It's not a natural angle for me to use. So after I actually got so annoyed with it that about halfway through this drawing I gave up on the doodle, and I started using my Copics just to fill in the extra space. I have to say though, over the weekend I used the 0.5, and then I started using the 0.2, and I used them quite a bit. And the more I used them, the more I liked them. I think that they're hard to get going, and they don't warm up very easily, but once you get them warmed up and going, they're very pleasant to draw with. Excuse me. The ink was flowing more readily and more smoothly, and I found that I didn't have to use them in that extreme vertical angle quite as much. They don't work very well if you're lying down and trying to use it at a side angle. My Muji fountain pen is very forgiving with that, so something I wasn't used to doing. But if you don't lie down and draw while you're in bed like I do, it's really not a problem. And it's really not a problem even then, because all you have to do is give it a quick shake and it works. The 0.5 makes some very nice, and I hate this word, but I'm going to use it anyway, some nice juicy lines. It puts out quite a bit of ink. And the 0.2 makes these very lovely fine lines. So despite my first irritations with the pens, I have to say that after working with them for a couple days, I really have enjoyed them quite a lot. I haven't used my 0.3 millimeter pen yet. I'll have to let you know how that goes later. So to conclude, I'd say that on a scale of 1 to 10, the feeling of the pen itself is probably somewhere around an 8. The performance of the pen is a 10 once you get it going. And the price point and everything is probably around a 7. So I'd say overall maybe an 8. So I'm coming up to the end of my video right now. I just want to say thank you again, everyone, for joining me. Please join me again next week or whenever I post again. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. If you did like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe anyway. Again, so nice to talk with you today. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.